HMO Sabis. It's the trickster. Welcome to 30 with Tony. You know, those demo commies have been ruining America, but we are winning it back with good old American exceptionalism. Hit it, honey.
It's Tony D'Angelo. It is Thursday, July 10th, 3 p.m. Eastern, on a Domini in the year of our Lord. So happy to have you for this edition of 30 with Tony. I really, I'm very grateful last week for the July 4th show. We had incredible amounts of views. We probably because we had some of the best music on the planet. We had our special 30 with Tony Boss Music concert right after the replay of the show. So nonetheless, I'm grateful. Nonetheless, I'm grateful for everyone that watched, for everyone that commented, for everyone that gave me something to consider and to think about. And I am just so grateful to you. I'm grateful to God. I'm grateful to our music contributors. And I'm grateful for the inroads that we're making every single week on this show, because we're reaching new people all over the place. And I'm just incredibly happy for that. Plus, I'm very happy because I can do things on this show. Radio is a wonderful medium. Don't kid yourself. It is the most efficient and the one with the largest reach, but I can't show a picture on radio. I can do a Zoom call, but yet there's a whole lot of other restrictions where I can't pop up a document. Here I can do that, and here we can talk it through. And here I think we can do greater things, which really can either supplement the radio or take us to future segments, because it's all about learning. It's all about finding out, the right answer. This is why when I look at, the presidents through the years, we have a lot of fun with Richard Nixon, and that's Kind of a bit of personal revenge for me, but the it's okay now. He's working for me. But John F. Kennedy would always say, "I don't want the Republican answer. I don't want the Democratic answer. I want the right answer. I'm about the right answer." So it's a lot of fun when you criticize Democrats because there's just so much to criticize and there's so much stupidity and there's so much incompetency and there's so much malfeasance and there's so much garbage. I mean, it's kind of like, being a starving man and you go through the grocery store and with an empty cart and the manager says, fill it up with anything you want and just come out the end and we will forgive you of your bill. That's what it's like when you criticize Democrats. But there's a lot of times when you have to criticize Republicans or so-called Republicans or whatever passes for a Republican in the state of Connecticut because it's just, it's amazing that I think 10 thoughts are rushing through my brain at once. I think the good part, if there was any good, about the COVID-19 attempted communist takeover was that it made a lot of us more angry, more sharper, more determined, more independent, and more intelligent. Where I see a lot of younger people starting up shows, people that are half my age, maybe even less. And while they may not be quote unquote multi-million dollar productions, these are people speaking their mind. These are people bringing their thoughts to the forefront. These are people trying to make a difference, and God bless them. And I want to see them do well, and I want to see them do better because that benefits all of us. But when we had COVID around us, not the disease. The disease could have been managed a whole lot more efficiently than what it did, but you know all the reasons why it wasn't. But when we had the quote unquote destruction of the economy, Connecticut Republicans were largely useless and mollycoddled and said nothing and did nothing. And for the most part, didn't fight where it needed to be fought. There were some aggressive fights made, but either they didn't come far enough or they didn't bomb where the supply lines were. And we were left with this illusion that our governor, Ned Lamont, known affectionately on this show and on the Lee Elsey show when I am on it, I don't want to speak for anyone else, as King Governor Ned Lamont the Unaccountable, was somehow painted by this Fox media machine paid for by your tax dollars, that he was the savior of us all. He was the protector of us all. He was this great statesman. He was this wonderful guy. And oh boy, are we so happy to have him, regardless of who we are and what we do. Now, anybody knowing that, anybody seeing that, anybody following that on this show, you all know what all that means. You all know how stupid and incorrect that all is. But yet, the socio-economico, politico, religioso, probonistico, state spirito, state paid media thing, even from some Republican people, probably the majority of them, if not sometimes all, want you to continue to have this sort of imprimatur when it comes to the efficiencies and the effectiveness of state government and governing. Now, what's government supposed to do? What is government supposed to do? Government is not supposed to be theater. It has become theater. It has become personal, whatever, a personal performance. But government is supposed to keep our taxes low, protect us, keep the streets clean, provide basic education with skills, not as a social effectiveness, correctness thing. And that's what, and have the military to protect us from foreign enemies, and in turn we pay our taxes. That's what's supposed to happen. But government has become a lifestyle, especially with the administrative state. Connecticut is right now, I don't want to say hopelessly mired. in the administrative state, but very badly mired in the administrative state, where people on both sides of the aisle, or whatever passes for a Republican, would never, ever, ever, ever criticize the administrative state in mass. There might be a couple of things here. These salaries are bulbous and things like, and yeah, they're not bulbous, they're obscene. But basically, the state could never, any state could never develop economically and powerfully until you start to whittle down the cost and the burden and the inefficiencies and the redundancies of the administrative state. The politicians love the administrative state because it gives them an internal life. For example, politicians come and go. Politicians come, and the shelf life, unless you are a governor in Connecticut without term limits, is really very limited, or limited by your own carcass, so to speak. But yet, if you can work with your administrative state and pass enough regulations and enough rules, those rules will be with us for years and years and years. The shelf life of a bureaucrat is 50 years. The shelf life of a politician, nearly not that much, unless you are Strom Thurmond or some of these other fossils who are now in the House and in the Senate. But and that has nothing to do with age. It has everything to do with fossilism. But that being as it is, I started to do some reading over the weekend about where we sit in this map of the United States of America, we being Connecticut. And I started to say, are there any lights going on as to what's needed in order for this state to survive and be competitive? Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to look at some of the quote unquote members of the legitimate media and the legitimate government and see what they're saying about things. And you're going to draw your own conclusions when you're done, basically. So let's open our newspaper and let's go to here. And over the course of the weekend, I'm just going to get a sip of tea if you don't mind. Over the course of the weekend, actually, this ran on Sunday in the Hartford Courant. Kevin Rennie, a person of great, shall we say, esteem in the legitimate circles, fashions himself as a Republican, apparently a lawyer, apparently one who wants to see the big picture. Was totally enamored with Kamala Harris as being the president, kind of saw her as, the new Joan of Arc. But basically, he has a love affair, and he wants you to know about his love affair. And his love affair is with our governor, Ned Lamont. Another sip of tea, if you don't mind. And the article starts out, actually, let's look at the headlines. Connecticut has its share of whining malcontents. Gee, would that be me? They are these Democrats. Well, actually, he doesn't even think enough about me or you to even consider us to be malcontents. But here we go. Governor Ned Lamont texted me in May. Gee, that's kind of cozy relationship, isn't it? Aren't you supposed to be the, shall we say, the voice of reason and the stalwart? You guys are buddies. You guys have each other's text numbers. It's, really kind of neat, isn't it? I mean, if you have a question, shouldn't you ask that question in a legitimate form rather than by text message? I'll move on. Lamont is sticking to his timeline later this summer to decide if he's going to seek a third term. Mr. Rennie says the session ended a month ago. Lamont has spoken to many Democrats about running again. An announcement seems imminent, and I hope he runs. Okay. Why do you hope he runs, Kevin? Because he's beatable? Because he harmed the state and you're hoping for a Republican candidate to come and beat him to pieces? Because you want to get rid of his rule and reign once and for all? Let's move on. Um, Lamont has been a notable success after a difficult start in 2019. He believes the unaccountable is successful. Do you feel successful under the unaccountable? Well, you may if you're a state worker or if you do business with the state, or if you are a member of the administrative state, or if you are connected with one of the universities, that's starting to teeter, or you are, quote unquote, a member or belong to the Department of Health or the Department of Revenue Services or the judicial system, you may think that's successful. You may think what he's done is successful. If you are a small business person, if you are a mom, a dad, if you're concerned about what your kids are being taught in school to where you've pulled them out and you've started homeschooling at great personal expense, only to have the state try to assault that. What a farce that was this past. Maybe you don't feel that way. Now let's look on here. For more than 50 years, the state's finances were fraught with frequent crises. Solutions were expensive, causing taxes to rise and businesses to leave. Hey, Kevin, where you been? Taxes are rising. I got my house tax bill, my car tax bill. Um, it's a joke. It's ridiculous. Now, thank God I can pay them, but I'm not sure about a lot of my neighbors if they can pay them. I mean, you have a number of entitled people in the towns in Connecticut that think that they are entitled to these wonderful things and others should pay for them. But let's move on. Now, last Monday, the state ended its budget year. Actually, this would be 2 Mondays ago, with a surplus estimated at 2.3 billion. Where do you get those figures? I mean, it's clear. Bob Swick has told us time and time and time and time again. We've got deficits of probably $150 billion accruing interest. We've got unfunded mandates that are unascertainable. Rennie doesn't want to talk to you about that. Rennie wants to talk to you about the fiscal guardrails, which we've said the fiscal guardrails are the equivalent of, doing a tune-up on a car that's rotting from the inside. Get you a little bit of time, but the state's rainy day fund has more than $4 billion in it. Well, 4 billion versus 150 billion ain't really that much, is it? These are monumental achievements, says Rennie. I guess it keeps him in the current. I guess it keeps him writing columns. Inconceivable in the past that will allow the state to navigate the swings and roundabouts of deluded Congress imposes on us. Okay, well, at least Rennie's being very clear in the fact that he doesn't like the one big beautiful bill. He doesn't see the economic benefit of a 23% business write-off, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, a 1 year manufacturing write-off. We talked about that on the Lee Elsey show this past Tuesday. He sees none of the benefits of that because he only sees himself. These people in state media only see themselves as the only source, and nobody's paying attention to anything else. Now, what they don't like is the fact that people are paying more attention to independent media and people like me than they are ever right now to people like them because they are defenders of the status quo. And you know what the status quo has done in Connecticut since 2020. Let's read on. Ned Lamont deserves credit for these accomplishments. He's been a prudent steward of the state's finances. Yeah, I mean, you were about to wreck all our zoning. You were about to destroy all our communities. Finally, you said no. And you could have done that months ago, but you didn't because you're a coward and you were testing the waters as to what people were actually believing. Kind of makes me wonder how much you're actually focusing on your governor's job. Now, whether by instinct or experience, the governor has mastered the art of compromise without surrender. Most people in the state, not reading Rennie, because you probably shouldn't read him here, would say that the governor has mastered the art of non-resistance by capitulation. His record is not without disappointments, cough, sniff, but features plenty of achievements to appeal to the broad center ground of Connecticut voters. Where is there a broad center ground of Connecticut voters? I see botzo liberals. I see people who are really kind of too busy to do anything. And then I see a lot of Americans that want America, that want freedom, that want low taxes, that want to worship, that want to drive the car they want to drive, that want to live their lives without government interference. Rennie doesn't see you if you were that person. He doesn't see you. Rennie and his ilk don't see you. You are nothing but an obstacle to them. And you're almost like a scary movie. And in the worst scene, you're the scene they're turning away from. That's what this is. And talks about Lamont, the political warrior. Basically, he's been a prop ever since day one. And there are lunatics. We've talked about the lunatics before. Saud Anwar and Josh Elliott, who want him to go. They want him and his ilk. It's time for him to step aside because he is not, as much destruction as a man like Lamont has caused. These guys want to do a whole lot worse. Anwar, as we've said, wants to put drunk tents in the cities. Anwar wants to defund police. Elliott is botzo way off the charts. So basically, that's what they want, and they're threatening Lamont. And here's Rennie, the Republican, the centrist, the Trump hater, the Harris lover, coming to the defense of the unaccountable. Basically, that's what you're seeing. Read on. Both Anwar and Elliott have complained that Connecticut does not spend enough money on public education. We spend $25,000 a year per public school pupil. Isn't that pathetic with the level of education going on in the state where people are pulling their kids out and schooling them themselves? You're still paying for it. The average teacher salary is $86,511 a year, the sixth highest in the nation. Not bad when you get your summers off. Whatever problems confront public education in Connecticut, money's not one of them. But the urge to denigrate public education has become one of these odd obsessions that unite the nutty left and the kooky right. Let's just go and highlight on that. So if you're an American and you don't like what's going on in the schools, and you don't like a male teacher running around in a dress, and you don't like all these obscene books, and you don't like being in the middle of defending your kid being taught atheism and things like that, and you're a kook. You're a kook. And here's Rennie saying, me centrist, me love Lamont, me want to see Lamont as governor. Let's read on. Lamont possesses an attribute of leadership that is too often overlooked. He's willing to test his ideas by consulting widely. When is the last time Ned Lamont asked you, American, MAGA person, listener to the Lee Elsey show, follower of conservative media, last time he asked you what you thought? Was he ever asked about the one big beautiful bill and the economic benefits to a state like Connecticut, other than, producing a statement after it was signed that I'm sure either AI or some intern wrote? Because believe me, the statement was not a very good statement, but it's beyond his abilities to write. Confident leaders, here we go, put their idea before colleagues and required them to vote on it when debating the state budget. They didn't because they would have lost. And complaining about the rich comes with many snares, as events reminded Anwar last week. The CEO of Yukon Health making $816,000. And Anwar defends this executive compensation. Sure, it's his food chain, calling it close to average. So is this, quote unquote, a solution or a problem? Draw your own conclusions. Now, we read on in Rennie's praise of Lamont. An affable aristocrat. Yeah, I wonder how affable he was, Kev, when he was shutting down schools and shutting down businesses and, having police card people on the streets and vaccine passports. The Lamont we see from day to day is different from the one who approves his campaign advertising. He brings a practiced hand to extenuating an opponent's feeble record. The flimsy will feel the heat of a searing light. 20, 30, or $40 million will allow a fella to divert attention from his own mistakes and celebrate his substantial accomplishments. So basically, let's read that through again. He brings a practiced hand to extenuating an opponent's feeble record. So when you buy your media, when you use state dollars and your own to talk about how wonderful you are, and you do that all the time, it's a great advantage, isn't it? It's absolutely a great advantage. It's been done in Russia for years. You couldn't find anything negative on Russian television, about Khrushchev, about Brezhnev, about any of the people who were actually in the government, so to speak, and how wonderful the sports program was, and how lucky you were to be able to celebrate the sports program. Sound familiar? But he'll conclude 2 4-year terms as governor would probably been enough Lamont in ordinary times, but these are not those. The governor should take his record and plans for whatever awaits us in this perilous time and put them before voters. In other words, Lenny, maybe he should be called Lenny. Rennie is backing Lamont. He's saying he's trying to use some very cleverly crafted lawyerly language, but he ain't interested in what passes as a Republican who may want to run for governor. That's very clear. Rennie has come out in the past and said, well, why doesn't Anne Lamont take her, technical skills of her, shall we say, her investment companies and put them in the hospital? We need it. He sees none of that. He sees this as government. Okay? So that's basically it. That's what you get. When you go back over this article, and when you look at it, or this opinion piece more properly, he calls the one big beautiful bill diluted. So I guess when your food chain is largely generated from places like the Hartford Current and the state of Connecticut, and whatever your state connections have been through the years, you can look at that, or anybody that believes they need that economically, they need lower taxes, they need to have a tax break on their Social Security and on their tips and incentives to develop something. That means absolutely nothing to him. But let's move on. If you didn't see this, gonna get another sip of tea. I'm assigning this as reading. Bob Swick, an economic voice of truth and reason, writes an article this past Sunday about American exceptionalism. Rennie is talking about let us accept a lesser form of defeat. Bob Swick and many Americans are invested in American exceptionalism. The ability and the right for Americans to outperform, to exceed, to grow to where they wouldn't have believed they could have grown, but for the American system. And if you don't know it, Bob goes on, he talks about the fact of freedom not being free. Why are some in our country embracing the losses of personal and economic freedoms along with reverting back to a tyrannical type of government? Do they not understand the consequences of the dictatorial actions of murderous leaders such as Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin, Pol Pot, Idi Amin, Chairman Mao, and Saddam Hussein? What about the economic limitations fashioned upon us by King Governor Ned Lamont, the unaccountable, and the legislature? What about the non-business policies of the state. What did the state try to do? I'll jump back to Bob Swick. What did the state try to do this past session? Well, they tried to limit artificial intelligence. They still got some of that in. They've tried to tell you what to drive. They tried to curtail the First Amendment in the past. They have made it more expensive for you to own your home. If you want to educate your children, they're trying to make that difficult too, because it does not fortify the administrative state. I mean, the greatest thing that would ever happen. I mean, I would just love to see this. I'm not going to organize it, but I wish somebody would. I have enough things I have to organize, but how about a 3 month walk away from the schools? Just walk away. Parents just saying, I ain't going to deal with it. I ain't going to send my kid to school. I'm going to have my kid homeschool and let the school buses pull up empty. Let the teachers stare at empty classrooms. Let the football field be, an empty football field, and let education starve for 3 months. What do you think is going to happen? These people would be coming back saying, what do you want us to do? How do you want us to do it? What did we do wrong? Oh, we're sorry. Oh, we want to make a mess. Oh, you want to take my job away. You see, I would love to see that. I probably won't live long enough, but surprise me, please. But it's just this, the whole thing is you never get anything from a Connecticut character other than what makes his life better. That's basically it. And the thing is, I don't know. I don't know how a state can survive dying. Do the Kevin Rennies of the world realize Connecticut's dying? It's a dying place. Nobody will come here to do anything, basically, without some huge state subsidy or gimme. And if people do come from time to time, they're coming only because it's a convenience thing. There's no great job driver, job creator. There's no reason somebody would come here, headquartered here, with the reputation Connecticut has, bringing thousands of jobs, creating communities for the better. We talked about that on the Lee Elsey show. Qualified opportunity zones and what that means, and the fact that the Connecticut politician, particularly, Connecticut Democrat is just a botso idiot who gets nothing. But the Connecticut Republican has no sense of that whatsoever, even when I explain it very succinctly. And if they don't like the way I'm explaining it, get somebody else to explain it to you, whom you may like better. But basically, they have no sense of that and no sense of what it would take, because the more you have a developed private sector, the less need you have for an administrative state. The less need you have for an administrative state, the less need you have for government, the less you'd have to deal with people like Rennie telling you what things are and what you are supposed to believe, and shame on you if you believe otherwise. That's basically it. So I come down to this. When it comes down to, quote unquote, what makes Connecticut improve, what would actually make Connecticut a better state from a livability and from a productivity standpoint? We talk about this guy here, Ned Lamont, that Kevin Rennie's talking about. Well, he's developed no economy. He's largely, for a large part of his reign as king, has subsisted on handouts. Now he ain't going to get the handouts because the one big beautiful bill did away from the handouts. Now he might have to actually cut the administrative state because he can't pay the administrative state. I mean, did you see what happened in Boston? I have friends now in Boston, people who are watching me, and I'm following what they're doing. And great Americans there, like here. The totally incompetent crybaby mayor, Michelle Wu, couldn't pay her people right before the 4th of July. Blame the banks. And that's basically it. It's never the liberals' fault. The liberal never gets the blame. It's always somebody, MAGA did it, or the bank did it, or the president did it, or it's never their fault. They're completely without sin. I'm I was of the understanding that was only one person in human history that was completely without sin. But anyway, the people like that cannot govern. Lamont cannot govern anything if you don't give him a pile of money because he can't generate it on his own. He doesn't have the wherewithal. He doesn't have the perspective. He doesn't have the vision. And not only that, he's really a hated man. The state media will tell you, and a guy like Rennie will do his best to say, well, what a good guy and how fortunate. I mean, throw up a poll. I've thrown them up. Others have thrown them up on Twitter. That's people. Do you like Lamont? Do you think he's doing a good job? Comes down like 95 to 5. They hate him. And some of the commentary, I can't tell you what it is here. It's so bad against him. It's not undeserved, but it's bad. But anyway, you have people in Connecticut government, Connecticut leadership who are Republicans that have no sense of vision or perspective whatsoever. And how is this going to improve the state? If you're going to get somebody, you're going to run them for governor. I mean, what are they going to do? How are they going to get this state out of the mire? How are they going to fix the schools? How are they going to fix the roads? How are they going to fix the judicial system? How are they going to make Connecticut a desirable place? I have a solution for that. I talked about it on the Lee Elsey show, using the opportunity zone. Really, I think this entire state should be an opportunity zone. It should have a cut tax rate and just get things in here and keep it where it's at. You'll get people. You'll get people if they know they can do something. They don't care about Ned Lamont. They don't care if he's the governor. They don't care if Franklin Delano Roosevelt is the governor. They don't care if Muhammad Ali is the governor. They want to make a buck, but in making a buck, they will do something positive for the state. That's basically it. They honor contracts because they know if they don't honor contracts, they get sued. Politicians just lie and lie and lie and lie. And then, having no sense of risk, they just simply raise your taxes. But yet, the economic sense of the Connecticut government and, sadly, the Connecticut Republican Party is to, quote unquote, let's just keep doing things the same way we're doing and we'll come back a little bit at a time. Well, a little bit at a time is sort of like in Connecticut is kind of like, spinning your wheels when your car is stuck in the mud. You get a little bit and then you come back even farther and worse. But anyway, there was another article. This was past Saturday in the Hartford Courant. They actually asked the Republican politicians what they thought about the One Big Beautiful Bill. And when you read down the article, it's not anything that is surprising, if you will. The people that were asked primarily, of course, you get all the botso, nutso, sky is falling crap from the Rosa DeLauros of the world. But basically, Vincent Candelora actually focused on the salt cap and what the salt cap means and how great that is for people in Connecticut, the state and local tax cap. And they talked about the pass-through entity tax, which the article here, the person writing it, Christopher Keating, absolutely understands nothing about taxation because the pass-through entity tax, which a business pays, is creditable towards personal taxes so that it gives them a way to deduct it. But basically, what it does is that it's just shifting from one pocket to the other. The state does not get additional revenue from the pass-through entity tax. If you weren't paying the pass-through entity tax, you'd be paying, state income tax. That's basically it. What the One Big Beautiful Bill did was that they gave us a bigger salt cap and they kept the pass-through entity tax pretty much intact. Actually, they didn't. I don't think the IRS has ever ruled on the legality of the pass-through entity tax. But basically, the where that all comes down, I think we're going to be watching some administrative pronouncements as we go. But that being as it is, this is as far as the Candeloras and the Hardings of the world. Here he is praising the revenue of the pass-through entity tax. It's the same revenue. It's just pocketed differently. Um, and let me just read down here. Candelora talks about the wealthiest paying the largest amount of taxes. That's true. Bob Godfrey, don't listen to him about anything. Democrat legislator, don't let this man wash your car, frankly. But even if your car is as old as mine. But what gets me here in this article is no Republican, and it's not like they don't know because they watch me, they listen to the Lee Elsey show, has been able to articulate the economic power in the one big beautiful bill, um, even after I've given it to them. And why is that? Why is that? Well, if you have empowered business people, you don't need a Department of Economic and Community Development. You don't need a CBIA. You don't need the administrative state. You have people looking out for themselves. And somebody like Rennie, who has no economic sense whatsoever, would never ever see that or does not want to see that because it would diminish his importance. Now, somebody like Swick gets that. And that's the idea. And what I don't know is if Republicans are going to keep doing what they've been doing for the past, I don't know, 45, 50 years that I've been paying attention, why do I need to pay attention to you? Because you're giving me nothing different, nothing better, even when the federal government is doing things that could help your sorry behinds, but you're not doing anything. And we're going to listen to somebody like a Kevin Rennie telling us what's right and wrong. You see what's happening here. To review, Kevin Rennie thinks we, as Americans, if you prefer MAGA people, people who want limited government are botzos and crazos and we need to be ignored and dealt with and we're no majority of anything. Okay? He also thinks the unaccountable is the best choice for being governor, even though he didn't come out and say that. He claims he is a Republican and he claims to be a voice of reason. He absolutely positively hated the one big beautiful bill. He absolutely positively hated Donald Trump and hates him. Bob Swick tells you that when you have a building, shall we say, administrative state and younger people that want communism, maybe they should go and they should live there for a while, live in these places, see how wonderful it is, see what Russia's like, see what, the virtues of quote unquote unending social services. Now, what is the big resistance, when you get over here to this article, which basically shows you the economic acuity of the Connecticut Republican Party as it sits. You read down the article, I'm not going to waste airtime with that, but the Rosa DeLauros of the world, all the people you're going to cut off of these benefits, and how horrible. Look, number one, that's a lie. And number two, the people who would be cut off benefits are those who can actually go out and do something. But for them to go out and do something, you need to have jobs, you need to have industry, you need to have economic development. And it's sitting there right on your freaking head, and you can't put two and two together. These people don't see it, and the Rosa DeLauros and the Chris Murphys of the world don't want you to see it. They are totally against labor. They are totally against initiative. They are totally against development because it obviates the need for them. I'll shut this down. You see what we're dealing with? Do you see what the enemy is? Do you see what the situation really is, regardless of what they want to tell you? When they come around and ask you for money and say, gee, I'm a wonderful candidate, will you vote for me? You need to be asking them, how do you feel about the one big beautiful bill? How do you feel about the abolishment or the severe diluting of the Department of Economic and Community Development? How do you feel about removing the freedom of information restrictions against all these nonprofits such as Advanced CT and the Yukon Foundation, who are doing state business under cloak and dagger and don't want you to see it? Because if you're not going to do anything with that, and how do you feel about the Lamont corruption? Let's not forget about that. Are you going to quote unquote call him to account for every single thing he did 5 years ago if he runs and make him answer to the fact? You think Rennie would do that? No, he saved us all from COVID. Are you going to do that basically? Because if you're not, forget it. I'd rather go out and cut the lawn, feed the chickens, feed the cats, and work because I can use that time more productively than I could in ever trying to get you to come into office and perpetuate the same weak tea failure we've had here for decades and decades, ever since the days of Thomas Meskill. It's Tony D'Angelo here from 30 with Tony. We'll be right back with the rest of the show right after this.
Hey, hey, mercy, woman plays a song and no one listens. I need help, I'm falling again. Play the drum a little louder, tell me I can live without her if I only listen to the band. Listen to the band. Weren't they good? They made me happy. I think I can make it alone. Oh, mercy, woman plays a song and no one listens. I need help, I'm falling again. Play the drum a little bit louder, tell them they can live without her if they only listen to the band. Listen to the band. Now weren't they good? They made me happy. I think I can make it alone. Oh, woman plays a song and no one listens. I need help, I'm falling again. Come on, play the drums just a little bit louder. Tell us we can live without her now that we have listened to the band. Listen to the band.
Well, thanks, Kemosabe's. Thanks for staying with us. In this second segment, I'd like to follow up a little bit on what we did on the Lee Elsey show yesterday. And no, actually, that would have been 2 days ago. That would have been Tuesday morning. And bring that forward into a pattern which we've discussed. And I think things are coming into better focus now, even though you may not like the focus and I may not like the focus. At least we understand what's happening, and how you're going to understand what's happening is certainly not at the hands of people who don't want to tell you the truth. But as I do here, put a couple of things together, get your mind thinking and arrange them in sequence, time them, and you'll get an idea as to what's really taking place, which is always the thing they don't want you to know about. Anyway, let's pick up where we left off. If you listened or watched my segment on the Lee Elsey show about the brain trust in Connecticut, who is trying to make, I think the headline here, it's a Pazianakis article, is perfect. Struggling to analyze and frame the big, beautiful bill. In other words, the blob just arrived on your doorstep, or King Kong, or Godzilla, or Rodan. And we're trying to figure out what it is. We're trying to ascertain it. Now, if I look at this picture, okay, look at this. Um, law license, Yale MBA, and they don't have any idea as to what is in that bill, or at least they want to tell you they don't have any idea, which kind of leads me to believe that they're either lying or they're functionally illiterate. Take your pick. But some of the comments here, we talked about these yesterday, are borderline hysterical. Why they let Joe Courtney speak at this thing is beyond me. There's going to be a race out there for the truth in terms of what happened last week. Joe, weren't you in Congress? Weren't you actually paying attention to this? Weren't you talking to your colleagues? Apparently not. Maybe you were, blowing dope in the back or something like that. But you want to make everybody think that this is this big blob and it's unascertainable as to what's taking place. I mean, how this man is a congressman is somewhat beyond me. The unaccountable complains a little bit, but he's not sure if he wants to complain or not. Let's take a look at what the bill does. Lamont says it's incredibly cynical because all the tax cut goodies happen immediately, just exploding into deficit, and most spending cuts happen after the midterms and even beyond that. So I don't think there's any need for revenue now, but we'll see what happens over the next few years. In other words, this man is looking at nothing positive in this bill, nothing concerning business development. The level of Ned's governance is, what have you done for me lately? What could I get my hands on? This guy could not start a hot marshmallow on a cold night. It's pitiful. And what he did during COVID to paint himself as some sort of management savior, saving us from us all, is sickening. And that should be continually remembered. And he should be held accountable for that. And the political parties never do it. So you read on for other comments of bewilderment and idiocy. Andrea Barton Reeves says people will lose their Medicaid coverage. They won't, Andrea, if they go get a job. It's like we can't have people work because I guess Democrats like dependency. And that's, it's like if I have health insurance coverage on my job and I quit it, guess what? I don't have health insurance coverage. I left a job years and years and years ago to start a business. I knew full well what I was doing. I did not demand health insurance coverage because I knew I wasn't going to get it. Other assorted people whining and complaining. Where's Larson? I mean, somebody must have pulled him away from the bar. And he says the actions will be blunted by the actions of the Connecticut General Assembly and other state legislatures to maintain social safety nets. So in other words, state legislatures, your congressional slobs are saying just raise local taxes. Don't give people a break. Don't taper things. Just keep doing the same stupid things that you're doing. And, life will be just fine. Of course, you have all the state-run news services there. And the Sean Scanlon says, our message is we've got your back. We're not going to let you fall through the cracks. We're going to step up to make sure the people of Connecticut impacted are going to be protected. And we're damn proud of that. Sean, are you a controller or are you Father Flanagan? Is your job as a controller to protect the downtrodden? I mean, this is amazing. And I think we had this discussion on Tuesday. It's come to where people really truly believe that government is supposed to be the sum, substance, and total of us all. Now, I can go on. There's other comments here. I talked about them on the video. You can go back and look at the video, and I don't want to be redundant to that. Lamont, who makes a comment here, no Republican in Washington who voted for this can ever use the words fiscal conservative with a straight face. And I want to hear where Republicans in the state stand on this bill. Now, as we said in the last segment, Candelora and Harding did no analysis. All they said is, well, the salt cap is up. Isn't that great? And we talked about, particularly on the Lee Elsey show, I won't do it here today because I'd be being redundant, but go back and listen to that tape. And I explain, I think, in pretty damn well clear terms, how the opportunity zone provisions in the One Big Beautiful Bill will solve all of the business issues and all the decrepit city issues and all the housing issues in Connecticut, to the extent there is housing issues in Connecticut. But these people here, this group of wandering minstrels, is not at all interested in solutions. They can only exist if there's a problem that you cry about. That's basically it. Now, if there is a housing shortage, I do believe there is an issue with affordable housing. However, I do believe the reason for the serial building of these places is the importing of illegals, and to put them in there and make them voters and make them dependent. So people like the people you're looking at can stay in power forever. Susan Beisowitz looks like somebody died, for crying out loud. Maybe it did. Maybe your political future died with the One Big Beautiful Bill. But that all being as it is, I always caution people to get their information from a variety of sources. What is this that we're reading now? There's a map. This is Newsweek. We're now clocking people moving to and from states. And what's attracting people, this is a Newsweek article a couple of days ago. And what's attractive and what's getting people in states, the people that are, really what they want is low taxes, low regulation, and money in their pocket. What are the states that are hot? Texas, Florida, Oregon, North Dakota. That's kind of interesting with Oregon, Idaho. And what's happening is South Carolina. The people have been moving out of Connecticut, and where the states that have the biggest domestic migration gains, North Dakota, they're doing everything they can to attract wealth. Nevada, South Carolina, I'll blow that up a little bit for you. Florida, Colorado, Arizona, Texas, Oregon, Idaho, Delaware, Montana, North Carolina. They're attractors. Who are the people leaking population? Connecticut's number 4 on a big long list, behind Alaska, Illinois, and New York. Now, what does that tell you? It tells you that we've got a horrible reputation. We're a stinker state. We've got no governance. People are reading libs of TikTok. They're watching drunks in the legislature. They're watching Where's Wanda. They're watching the stupidity. They're watching the porn in the schools. They're watching, stupid thing after stupid thing after stupid thing. They're watching, our government and our governor and saying, it's not a place where I want to be, for crying out loud. So they're moving out. So the operative question then becomes, if people are moving out of Connecticut, why are we building new housing? No, racist, idiot, how dare you? Colonizer. I mean, don't you think that's a sensible thing to say? I mean, if you go to the grocery store and you need groceries, do you walk out with empty bags because you were told you didn't need groceries? Or if you had a house full of food, would you walk out with 10 full bags? I mean, the Connecticut people, these people over here, they want you to not believe logic, reason, truth, common sense, or anything like that. This is part of the same ilk that wants for you to, wants to tell you that your grocer is price gouging you, and wants to tell you that Connecticut is crime free, and wants to tell you that this is a good place to live and work and have a family. Well, if that's the case, why are we number 4 in outmigration? Another indicator is the U-Haul indicator, which is a real indicator. Most people move themselves by using a van. It's the least expensive way. But anyway, if you've got this thing happening here, I'm sorry, I just got something in my throat. If you got this thing happening here, what's actually taking place? And we know what's taking place is not anything truthful or right or decent. They're lying to you. However, there are a number of people. Let me just stop the share for a second. We talked about last week. There are a number of people in the Democrat Party in Connecticut who want Ned out. They want the unaccountable to be done with. They consider him to be the last bastion of old line Democrat. And I honestly think he's the first line bastion in incompetency and corruption, but they don't like him and they want him out. They fashion a farther left government. They fashion a government much along the lines of a Zoran Mandami, what he wants to do in New York. And they want to have a government where they can have housing all over the place. They can have open borders. They could have legalized drugs. They could have all the things which would be detrimental to any sort of a reasonable society. And the last hope in this, in democracy or in the Democratic Party, has been, sad to say, Ned Lamont, which, as far as I'm concerned, two wrongs don't make a right. But there are some real nutso botzos in the state of Connecticut who want Ned over the side of the bridge. Here's something that broke the other night. Let me just get this up here for you. Here's probably the first of the cadres, Josh Elliott, a noted far left legislator, a guy really who wants to have, read his history. That's all I have to tell you. He is sort of the aspiring Mandami want to be. And he wants to go ahead and, knock off Ned. Another one is Saud Anwar. And you are talking some things where nobody, if you think this is bad now, this out-migration, wait until you see a guy like this as governor. And what bothers me about Republicans is that they are so thick-headed and pig-headed and stiff-necked. I'm going to use worse words, but not to realize that while you're sitting there trying to give the illusion or the imprimatur of policy and governance, knowing not a whole lot about it, these people are actually fighting a cultural war against you to the point where they want to knock off their titular head. This has gone on before in history. If you go back and you read the history of Adolf Hitler, his generals tried to kill him. And this is the same sort of thing. He ain't doing exactly what we want him to do, and the frustration mounts. But anyway, this article here says he is a liberal. This is another Pazianakis article. And he's going to make a formal campaign announcement. Now, here's Ann Hughes, noted legislator, tax expert, and fiscal conservative. She says it's a different moment. And according to her, the party needs a more aggressive approach to a Trump administration that's promoting a police state and dismantling the social safety net. And there's a desire for generational change. Where have you heard that before? Is that generational change? Honestly, kind of looks like the Smith brothers on a bad day. But that's where these people are headed. Now, are they looking at any sort of logic, reason, common sense government? No, they don't care. Anybody with half a brain would look at that and say, why are we losing people? Why aren't we building something in the state of Connecticut? And the answer is they don't care. They don't care. They want to have an open society. And where the Republicans are very stupid is that they don't realize that these people are fighting a cultural war against America and those things that are understood to be America and the tenets of America. And he mentions a couple of other people as they go down. And the one Democratic strategist has been privy to discussions, says, I think this is a shot across the bow. He said, if nothing else, this can make Lamont more open to policy overtures from the left. You know, the unaccountable here is in a tough place because he's there to be the, shall we say, the ambassador for his wife's moneyed interest. He's there to cater to his wealthy neighbors and his fellow billionaires and those sort of things. But yet he wants to masquerade to you that he is this man of the people and he's for things that people want to be for and whatever these twisted things are. He is a generational elite. He had nothing but the finest growing up. He is not a man of the people. He wouldn't know a man of the people from the People's National Bank. He never was. He never will be. He cannot be what he's not. Now, here he is, according to his spokesperson, Blanchard. He's making Connecticut more affordable for working families, free childcare for families making less than $100,000, paid family medical leave, expanding our earned income tax credit, and increasing our minimum wage to one of the highest of the country. But we got all these people moving out, right? You can't sustain it. You know, it's the same idiotic policy that says if we just build housing, they'll come. And the housing will take care of itself. It's nothing but a giveaway to developers. Now, Ann Hughes is inspired by Zoran Mondami. And she says that, you know, there's a little hope here for the crazies because people don't like to look at Ned Lamont. People want a brand new thing. People want to be paid for in every single thing they do. We want a pure socialistic existence. And that's basically what's happening. And when you look at this, this is not a hopeful scenario. You have stupidity and confusion on one side. We don't understand what is good for an economy in the one big beautiful bill or in anything else. We're not thinking about an economy. We don't know an economy from an economy car. All we know is we're not going to get our freebies and we're not going to get our free money and we're not going to get our programs and you're going to starve and you're going to die because of that. But that kind of thing leads to people leaving, regardless of what they tell you. So it's like, why are we building all these houses? We're building all these houses because it's a farce. It's a sham. We're trying to stuff the houses with illegal aliens so they'll be voters forever. And then there will be a perpetual social safety net for the illegal people. That's basically it. You cannot sustain this monster, you know, with no economy and nobody with any idea how to build it. If you want to listen to, you know, my thoughts on that, please go back and listen to the Tuesday tape of the Lee Elsey show. But regardless of what the fossils do, we've got people who say it's time to go full Mondami. It's time to get rid of every single thing with any semblance to anything and just make this a total licentious, botzo, socialist, crazy, drugs everywhere, free needles, you name it, society. Because that's the way it's supposed to be. We have to have equality. We have to have equality across the board. And the only way we're going to do that is by taxing the rich, which this guy's been a great proponent of that, and literally sucking their blood to pay for all the stupidity, noise, mess, confusion, losers, bums, and hangers-on that are so prevalent in just about every function of Connecticut government. I'll stop the share. This is what's happening. And do the Republicans realize they are in a cultural war? A cultural war for the state, a cultural war for America, a cultural war for right and wrong, good and bad, evil and awful. That's where we're at the moment. This is the situation we're in. I mean, that one article in the beginning, we talked about that yesterday on, actually, that would have been 2 days ago on the Lee Elsey show. We talked about that as far as there's no brain power for anybody on both sides of the aisle to look at the one big beautiful bill and say, how can I build an economy on this? There's really good stuff in building an economy, but how are you going to build an economy in a sanctuary city, in a place that's dangerous, in a place that's lawless? How are you going to, attract businesses? How are you going to attract people to move into the state? They're moving out as it is. I mean, these kinds of things do not penetrate the heads of just about anybody in government, especially the demo commie, even the shall we say the somewhat vestiges of sane Democrats, because all they really know is all they've been able to do through the years is they screw up, they raise taxes. They don't understand risk, they don't understand complexity, they have no regard for you whatsoever. And that's basically where we're at. So take an active interest in what you do. Vote, ask questions. Whatever you may learn here and in other places, use that, pin people to the wall, because we are really in a fight for our identity as free, living, productive, happy, and useful human beings, because the people who are using this mess against us, many of whom are too stupid to even understand it, want to take it away from us, basically. And they do not have the right. They can come and do that same thing if they chose to, or they could do even better. And they don't like to hear that. That's the whole equity principle. Whatever I've got, I have to give to you so that we are equal. That is not American. That is not biblical. That is not a substance of any faith I know. Charity is of faith, but equity was never of faith. It's just, and they'll use whatever they could. Listen to the speech of Hakeem Jeffries when he wouldn't get off the stage for the one big beautiful bill. I've never heard scripture as maligned as it was that day, but my guess is we're probably going to see worse and we're going to hear worse. It's Tony D'Angelo here in 30 with Tony. We'll be back with the fun part of the show right after this.
HMO Sobbies. It's the Trickster. It's time for a 30 with Tony classic movie review. And here's Tony.
Well, thanks, Kimasabi's. Thanks for staying with us. When I was driving around over the weekend, I thought to myself, where would America be right now but for brave, patriotic individuals who fought like hell against government, against the COVID lockdowns, against tyranny, against political malfeasance, against incompetence? I mean, we're seeing some terrible things now, but yet imagine what it would be like if we didn't fight back. We would not have a United States of America. And yes, there are people who are still very active in the political sphere that really want to destroy America, at least what America was founded on, what America did for so many. They want to get rid of it. So when we were being besieged and battered and humiliated and being made fun of by, quote unquote, the people in legitimacy, it took a lot to hang on to what you knew was true, what you knew to be true, more accurately. And put it this way, the tide is now shifted where those who are doing, those that were doing the accusing are now rightfully being accused and being held accountable for what they did. I don't know if we'll ever get fully to the bottom of it, but yet there were also a lot of people who thought they had a conviction against something, but when they were, quote unquote, given a hard choice, they took the easy way, and you don't hear about them anymore. How many people ran for office? You don't hear about them. how many people were these great crusaders of things. You don't hear about them. So it takes a special person to fight on for right and keep fighting when everybody in the world thinks you're wrong, and you come to a choice of, would I rather die right or would I rather live wrong? And in that vein, in that spirit, in that means of inspiration, I've got the movie for you. And this is one not to miss. In my estimation, the best Western movie ever made. Probably the best movie ever made in standing on principle. The movie High Noon. It was made in, I think, shot in 1951, made in 1952, and it's about a sheriff of a particular community who is dealing with, and he's about to, lead a new life and get married and leave town and everything's wonderful and get a whole bunch of pats on the back. But there's these bad people whom he put into prison who are going to come looking for him and who are going to kill him. And the sheriff is, his name, I believe, his character name is Will Kane, spelled a little bit differently than the news anchor, played by Gary Cooper. Goes to the townspeople and says, this is going to happen. Will you help me defend this town for the sake of integrity and righteousness and everything that's right? And I won't spoil it for you, but the reactions of every single person in this town are quite amazing. And not only that, but his fiance, played by probably one of the most beautiful women that ever walked the earth. Her name was Grace Kelly. Trying to find her here in the lists of credits. There she is. Later, Princess Grace of Monaco, a woman who Ed Norton on The Honeymooners said was probably the evidence of her father being one of the greatest chefs in the world because he cooked up a pretty sweet dish. But she plays a Quaker woman who is entirely against violence and gunshots and killing. And she wants her husband to leave, or her husband to be. She wants that to be over, or she wants to lead a new and peaceful life. But the reactions here in this movie are unbelievable as far as how long will you take your commitment to what you believe in and keep it regardless of what happens. Our president, Donald Trump, I think, is an incredible example of that. Some of the people we have seen since the onset of COVID-19 are the examples of that. A lot of the political figures we have seen are a lot like a lot of the people in this movie. When confronted with something, the reaction was somewhat predictable. But basically, when it comes down to High Noon, when these bad hombres are going to come in and blow this man's brains out, does he stay or does he go? And what does he do? I don't want to spoil the movie for you. I don't want to read down the review, but you need to see it. And you need to see what commitment is really like. Now, one of the things here, the producer, Stanley Kramer, one of the greatest producers ever in Hollywood, Stanley had a way of getting the very unpopular things in society like racism and violence and in many cases comedy. It's a mad, 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 mad world, greed, and just showing people for what they really are like. And basically, the Stanley Kramer sense of perspective or humor or whatever is exactly the same in High Noon, being a completely different movie than It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. And all I'm going to tell you is you need to see it. You need to watch this movie for its inspiration. It had an incredible, incredible list of awards and an incredible list of just accolades as we go. Notes on the production, the casting, the filming, the music. You can read about all of that on Wikipedia. The accolades, Best Motion Picture nominated, Best Director nominated, Best Actor. Gary Cooper won the Best Actor. Best Film Editing, you got to see the film editing, won that. Best Scoring of a Dramatic or Comedy Picture, Best Song, Best American Film, Best Foreign Film, and Best Actor and Best Supporting Actress and Most Promising Newcomer, the late great Katie Gerardo. So I'm going to send you off to see this movie, but first I'm going to show you the trailer. The film is High Noon, made in 1952. It's a film about commitment, starring Gary Cooper, Thomas Mitchell, Lloyd Bridges, Katie Gerardo, the lovely Grace Kelly, the pretty sweet dish, Otto Kruger, and Lon Chaney, who you might have seen in some of the horror movies that you've watched. It is an incredible movie. I'm not going to go any further than that, otherwise I'd spoil it. My name is Tony D'Angelo and not Lawrence, so let's watch the trailer and then watch the movie.
Hey, Chemosabis, the really cool Chemosabis watch 30 with Tony at the beach. So since I am the president, I have a beach update for you, Hidano.
Roll your guard. Roll your guard.
Hey, Google Google, let me out of here!
When the evening is over, put your head upon my shoulder, and I'll tell you something I believe is true. Happiness is me and you. In a world so distorted, where the worst is best reported, love may be something that will see us through. Happiness is me and you. There may be girls that I'll remember who've made me happy for a while, but none of them compare with you, my love. However hard they all may try, if the bus that we're taking has for ages kept us waiting, what does it matter, even in a queue? Happiness is me and you. There may be days when you discover I'm not the man you think I am, but through it all we will recover without the aid of any plan. When the weeks turn to hours, and in June it's April showers, I'll tell you something I believe is true. Happiness is me and you. Happiness is me and you. Happiness is me and you.
Well, thanks, Kemosabe's. Thanks for staying with us. You know, we've been having this debate on 94.9 about creationism versus evolution. And a creationist told me a joke. He said, Tony, how many evolutionists does it take to screw in a light bulb? I said, I don't know. And the creationist said, none. Unscrew it and a new one will just evolve. It's Tony D'Angelo here on 30 with Tony. Thanks, Kemosabe's. Thanks for staying with us. Be sure to hear me or see me every Tuesday on the Lee Elsey Show, 7 a.m., 94.9, and here on 30 with Tony, and occasionally as a pop-up on Patriot TV. Thank you. God bless you. We'll see you next time around. Bye now.